It's time for Remodel Revolution. And now, an award-winning contractor with over 40 years experience. Here is Alex Guthrie.
Welcome to another episode of Remodel Revolution. I'm your host, Alex Guthrie. We're coming to you live from the world headquarters of Remodel Revolution, from deep in the heart of the great state of Texas. We have got a fantastic show today. We have experienced builders. We have a president. We have a historian because he's so old. And I'm not talking about me. And we're going to talk about some of the ways that you can alter the way that we're altering materials and techniques to save money in building houses, and of course for other reasons, technical reasons. But this is going to be an interesting conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, as we all know, if you're involved in the building industry, or you're building a home or remodeling a home, you understand the challenges in the industry right now. In the last few shows, we've been focusing on different aspects of that. Today, I wanted to bring in a couple of experienced builders. Matt Mitchell. Matt is the president of the Dallas Builders Association, so he's an important person. And Chris Miles, who is a friend of mine, he is a builder. He builds high-performance houses with Green Craft Builders. He's a custom home builder. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Hey. How are you?
Just groovalicious. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm fine. I'm great. We have a huge challenge on our hands in the industry, and we're all having to deal with it now because of material costs, delays, COVID, pandemics, all the things that have added up to this. It seems like we're coming up. We haven't hit the wall yet. We're still having a huge building boom. And Matt, I wanted to get you to give us sort of an update on that because, I mean, you're like a really important guy. You're the president of the Dallas Builders Association. You're in touch. You know what's going on, man. So what's going on?
Know all the inside goss. It's bedlam is what's going on. It is nothing short of crazy. And
break that down for us.
Let me set the broad understanding of it. There's a guy from Texas A&M Real Estate Research Center, Dr. Jim Gaines. He's kind of the guru for Texas, but even around the country, and what's going on and what's the underlying going on with the economy of all of this. And really, since pandemic has started and up until now, he has maintained that there is no economic model for what's going on. So anybody that tells you they have a crystal ball on what's going to happen is lying. They don't. Nobody knows.
Kind of like the rest of what's been going on globally for 18 months.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing out there
We're breaking new ground every day.
It's breaking new ground. You're exactly correct. So we've had all kinds of issues since really before the pandemic started with President Trump starting tearing up tariffs and things with Canada and laying new tariffs, I should say, and created a rise in building costs, particularly in lumber. Mm-hmm. Once the pandemic hit, things started going crazy. We had all sorts of trucking issues. We had COVID issues. We had all sorts of things. But as we've moved along, we've sorted a lot of these things out. We know how to deal with COVID and all the rest. We realized that The guys cutting down trees really don't work very close to each other, so that's not a big issue.
You mean the guy at the top of the tree and the guy at the bottom of the tree?
Exactly.
They're safe.
Yeah, they don't really care about the guy at the top of the tree anyway. And truckers, they drive a truck by themselves. They don't have to worry a whole lot. So there's all kinds of things. We worked it out. And there's still supply chain issues, but the big giant bottleneck is in the lumber mills themselves. And they have not wanted to go to full production. They shut some lumber mills down. And 14 months ago, they were saying, "Oh, this whole housing thing, it's not going to continue. It's all going to
The
collapse."
prediction initially was that the housing industry was going to slow down like everything else.
Right.
Right.
And
it didn't do that.
It did not do that by a long stretch. And in Texas, we weren't necessarily seeing any of that. We have an enormous amount of pent-up demand. So we had all these bottlenecks at the lumber mills, so they just have kept jacking up prices consistently. So 52 weeks ago, we measure the cost of lumber in 1,000 board feet of lumber, just kind of as a metric to wrap our heads around. So 1,000 board feet of lumber 52 weeks ago cost $350. Well, about 4 weeks ago, it crested up over $1,770.
Wow.
It has slipped back down, but it's still crazy. It's still going up and down. It's very volatile. And 18 months ago, hardly anybody talked about the cost of lumber per 1,000 board feet. It never came up in conversation. It just didn't move that much. It would go from 350 to 390, and people are going, "Well, that's crazy. Price of lumber, it's so crazy." Now we're just
we're in a whole new world.
It's a whole new world
right.
that's going on. So cost of copper has gone up. So electrical issues have gone up. Cost of concrete has gone up.
The cost of a roll of copper wire, has what, tripled? Doubled or tripled?
I don't know.
It's substantially higher.
Substantially higher.
It has gone up. My electrician gave me a change order for the house that I'm working on, which is 3,500 square feet, and $3,500 extra just for wire because the cost of it's gone up that much.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. The cost of what we would call a starter home in Texas has gone up, from maybe it was $280,000. It's gone up a good $35,000.
Easily.
That's just from the lumber side piece alone.
So concrete's gone up.
Concrete has gone up.
Now, and I remember the first time, Chris, you remember the first time, and you do, when concrete went up, it went from, I don't know, what is it a yard now? $150, $175 a yard? I don't know.
Is it quite that high?
I don't know.
So.
But I remember when it went up, it tripled in the 90s. And then sheetrock followed, and then insulation followed. But they followed. But what's happening now is it's all happening at once.
Yeah.
So literally all of your materials have gone up.
Yeah, and cost of other things as well. When Snowmageddon hit on Valentine's Day, it shut down all kinds of chemical refineries down on the coast that never get shut down. So resins became in short supply. So now all sheet goods, OSB, plywood skyrocketed. Anything that comes from petroleum-based waste byproduct like insulation, things like that, price went up. All kinds of things. So we're starting to get those plants back online, and that's going to be sorted before too long.
Do you think those will stabilize down will they go back down to the normal cost? Or, I mean, does anybody, you're not going to make a prediction Because
I wouldn't
No.
think, I wouldn't think so in the short
you
term.
think they'll
They're-
just, you think they'll just stay up?
They are
huh?
not going to allow a perfectly good crisis
to go to waste. Right, right.
And we
right.
can look back at Hurricane Katrina
Yeah.
when it shut down the port of New Orleans for a couple of months or however long. And the cost of all of our stuff skyrocketed, everything across the board, where there's a lot of materials that come through that port. Did they all settle back down to normal pricing? No, they did not.
No, it's a new normal is
So
what it
it's-
is.
Yeah, now it's going to come down. Will it come? But if it, it was 350.
It's
If it comes back down to 800, we're going to be doing cartwheels, and that's. what
but
they're-
that's still a new normal that's twice as high, over twice as high as it was.
Yeah.
And so the problem is in the long term, as I see it.
Correct.
And it affects everything. It affects the buyer's ability to qualify for a loan. It affects the builder's ability to qualify, to actually price something and stay with it. I mean, are you guys having issues with that? What are you doing about it?
Well, it affects, it's added 2 or 3 months to the time that it takes to build a house. Because you're dealing with waiting for materials, you're having to figure out what materials you're going to use if you're going to make changes. And it's affecting everything about the house that you're building. I feel like I've been framing on this one house for the last 5 or 6 years. I haven't. That's what it feels like. And then, of course, here we're having to put up with rain and
Yeah.
plenty of it. So
Yeah.
it's kind of tough.
So between natural disasters and a pandemic, it's been a rough year for you guys.
And yet the demand stays the same.
The demand
mean, it's still-
increased in this
Yeah, it
area
has.
because we have so many people relocating here.
Yeah.
We have, and it's still there. I mean, there's a train of companies still moving into Texas, and the pent-up demand is gigantic. There's a huge number of people that are having to rent, and but they want to buy a house. And if you look at MLS, there's hardly anything to buy out there.
Well, and with mortgage rates being low, that's even made the demand that much more.
Absolutely.
And so it
I mean,
just,
normally these would all be good things, not all the price increases, but normally the mortgage rates, the demand, that would all be a good thing, right?
It's
Matt, I've heard that some of the production builders are even going as far as buying rail cars full of wood and materials.
I know custom guys that are buying truckloads.
Yeah.
And just stashing it.
Yeah.
There's a black market that has started up. Theft is
Really?
gone through the roof,
Yeah.
where people are stealing wood, selling it to this black market. And it's crazy what's going on.
So you're kind of dialed in. You listen to the Aggie and all those people. Going forward? What are they predicting? Go ahead and predict something, Matt. This is Matt Mitchell, James Andrews Custom Homes, predicting the future.
Yeah, exactly. I would bet all your money on this. It's people seem to think pricing is going to be coming down in the fall a little bit. A couple of the big lumber mills are reopening mills that they shut down, but it takes them a good long while to ramp up. They're trying to add production. Through all this, we've been begging them to go to full production runs, and they haven't. And they're
They're waiting on everybody to get accustomed to those high prices so they can go, well, yeah, we're back to at full capacity, but so what?
They're printing money, so they can do whatever they want to do. But my thought is, things are going to settle back down, and the amount of demand is so huge in North Texas, probably in Texas all over, that it's going to continue for a while, and we're going to wade through this. There's going to have to be a reset. Economically, can we continue to afford to pay these prices? No, we're seeing a whole lot of projects back out.
You've had some personally that have backed out
I've
already?
had 4 projects back out in the last 9 months.
How about you, Chris? Have you had any issues with that yet?
I haven't had any issues with it, but it's one of those things where it's like we were talking before we came on the air. What the people that backed out, they're waiting for prices to go down.
Yes.
They're waiting for a variety of things.
Yeah, they're waiting for prices to come back down to get back into some realm of reasonable, and hopefully that happens. There's no guarantee. Anything.
No, there's no
What,
guarantees.
what would you tell people that are looking or want to buy a house and they don't want to buy an existing house, they want to go with a new house? Would you tell them just sit tight and wait for?
Yeah, I would say think through what is reasonable to you and what is in your mind. What do you want? Do you need to settle? I mean, are you someone that wants a 6,000 square foot house for your family of 3? Is that really necessary? Could you back that down to 4,800 square feet? It's still a big house.
Yeah, it is.
And you can get every bell and whistle and knob you want. So, do you need the wildly most expensive appliances that you need? I would focus on doing the structure right. Do the structure right the first time. Spend your money there. And if you need to save some money on some of the interior things, you can always redo stuff later, and it's relatively inexpensive. But your structure of your house, you got one shot to get it right. Do that right.
It's true.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about, because you both build different types of houses. So you build SIPS homes. Tell us what a SIPS house is.
It's a structural insulated panel. The walls and the roof are made out of these panels. It is looks like an ice cream sandwich
Oreo cookie?
or an Oreo cookie.
The vanilla Oreo cookie.
It has generically plywood, OSB specifically, skins on the inside and the outside, and it has a expanded polystyrene foam on the inside, and this is sandwiched together. There are no studs in the exterior walls, which create thermal bridges, and
What's a thermal bridge?
thermal bridge is based on Newton's second law of thermodynamics in really shorthand.
He spent way too much time with that Aggie down there.
Heat travels to cold. So a thermal bridge allows heat to travel through your wall to the cold side. So in the winter, you want it warm on the inside.
It's a temperature
Heat's gonna-
sponge.
Yeah, but it'll pass through that.
So it
And during
passes
summer,
through
it's going the opposite
passes through the outside of the stud to the inside of the stud.
direction. Right.
And now that doesn't sound like a huge deal, okay? So like to a typical person, this is a great little picture of it because we have an amazing engineer who knows how to find these things really quick. Thank you, Ben Taylor. And so essentially people, they go, well, it's just a stud and I can't really tell, but you've got how many studs are in that house?
Typically, every 16 inches on center, there's a stud. If you build like Chris builds, it's every 24 inches. So there's much less thermal bridging in Chris's house.
And a lot more insulation.
And a lot more insulation.
And yours is
And
all insulation,
Mine's
though.
all insulation.
Yeah, yeah.
But my structure is incredibly strong. It's much stronger than typical stick building. And my roof is the same. We get really focused on walls. The roof is way more important than the walls are. So we really need to contain what's going on in the roof more than the walls.
So the point of this discussion, and then Chris built a high performance house. So Chris, your houses have a stud every 24 inches as opposed to every 16 inches. You have advanced framing where You do things where you can add more insulation, more foam to the walls. We don't want to get into all the nitty gritty stuff, but all the places that would typically not be insulated, in your homes they are, for a stick-built house.
One of the ways they used to explain it to us, so we take our little pea brains and figure it out. If you take a wall, let's say it's an R11 or an R13, but you have studs,
R11 or R13 is
the insulation.
the insulation
Yes.
value,
Yes.
the
Yes.
amount
Of
that
that
it's-
wall.
of that wall.
But now then, you've got to take into consideration all the studs that are in that wall. So now then your R13 wall, that's what a lot of builders will call it, is now maybe an R8
R8, yeah.
or an R7.
And that's because of the thermal transference.
Yes, because the studs, wherever you have a stud, you don't have any insulation. So it really cuts down on the R value of this particular wall. And so that's why you go in and you build it. SIPS is an excellent way to build because you don't have that particular issue. And on ours, we're insulating the perimeter, the outside. We're insulating the wall itself. So we're making it so you don't have, those studs aren't creating the thermal bridging that they once did. And it's also a 6-inch wall. So it's, you have to look at the wall as a whole, or you have to look at your building as a whole, and what kinds of things can you go in there and do to make it a more efficient.
And the reason I wanted to bring that up is because these are sort of non-traditional ways of building homes
Right.
that save on material and save on really, more than anything, the long-term operating cost of the house. Because you're not spending all your money cooling it and heating it and that type of thing. And when we're in a period like we are right now, when we're talking about affordability, lack of materials, labor prices rising up, all that kind of stuff, I think these are the things that make a difference for some people. Is, first of all, if you say, I've just got to build it now, build it in such a way that in the long term, you're actually saving money with it. So maybe you can kind of in your mind go, well, you know, I'll feel better about it. I may not feel great about it now, but I'll feel better about how I did it later. But the other thing is, a traditional house uses a ridiculous amount of wood, ridiculous amount. The wastefulness. I drove by a house. I drove by a house under construction about a month or so ago. I was just driving down the street, and I saw this giant pile of
How big was it?
trash, ginormous.
Huge. It was huge.
Huge. It was huge. And I was just stunned at how wasteful these guys are. I mean, just, they don't even think about it.
Yeah. If you get some wood butchers on your house, they're just
It's unbelievable. So you guys are, you know, just by virtue of the types of houses that you're building, these are some of the things that we have to do going forward, because like we were saying, there's a new normal. There's a new baseline that's twice as expensive as what we've been accustomed to. So what's going to happen is we're going to have to find better ways to build houses.
that's right.
It ultimately makes them more affordable.
Ultimately, it's a great idea, and it's something we should have been thinking about for a very long time, and some people have. But you need to keep in mind, before you rush off to any type of building system, there is no such thing as a perfect building system.
No, there's not.
It takes research, and you got to look into it, you got to study it, and you got to sit down with someone like Chris Miles or Alex Guthrie or somebody and say, let's talk through this. Can you tell me what the weaknesses are? What are the strengths? What are the benefits? What style of construction works in one situation may not necessarily work in another situation.
You know,
So-
what are your ultimate goals as a homeowner? You know, what's the most important part to you?
Well, one of the things that was circulating around a few years ago was when we started building these houses real tight, a lot of builders said, you can build a house too tight.
I said you can build a house too tight.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is.
No. No.
You know, Chris and I have argued over this for what, 20 years on the radio.
Yeah.
You may not be able to build it too tight as if you can compensate for that, but that takes someone like you or Matt that has the intelligence. Because as a remodeler, trust me, I go and look at houses that have been so screwed up by people that don't know how to deal with that tight house.
You're absolutely correct. You absolutely can do it wrong, and it's done wrong frequently. I can walk you through, Chris can walk you through, we could walk you through spec houses in the most expensive areas of the Metroplex, whether it's South Lake or Highland Park or University Park, wherever, and they are a train wreck.
Yeah.
They're doing everything wrong.
We used to get, when we did the radio show, we would do a show on air conditioning and heating. And we'd open up the phone lines, and some of the people would call in. And some of the things, this one lady called in and she goes, you know, my house cools down really, really well. It's very, very comfortable. But, you know, I walk around the house and my carpets feel wet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, and the interesting thing is that, and then we're going to take a break after this intelligent piece of news I'm going to give you. The interesting thing is that the discussions now are how we've evolved as an industry to deal with, because her carpets were wet because they went in and they put a forced air system in that you could hang meat in the living room, but they didn't think about all the moisture they were throwing in there, right? And how to control it. And then that's where people like Chris came in and other people and said, how do we deal with this and make this work better? And so now we're at that point where we're making that. Now we have to deal with air quality because we've got them so tight.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have some more discussion with these two amazingly wise builders. Stay tuned. Imagine this, a totally customized, organized, and beautiful master closet. A home office that fits right into a perfect space. A pantry designed specifically for your storage needs. Imagine your home totally organized. It's time to call the design professionals at Closets by Design DFW and turn your dreams into a reality. With a design staff over 30 strong, Closets by Design works directly with you to create your dream space, and they build it locally, helping support the DFW community. Check them out at dallas.closetsbydesign.com or call them at 972-361-0010. Use the promo code RRV to find out about the amazing specials and discounts available. That's dallas.closetsbydesign.com or call them at 972-361-0010, and don't forget that promo code RRV, Closets by Design. It's only a few short weeks until we'll be running our air conditioners all day and all night. Hey, it's time to get an HVAC tune-up scheduled. Call my friends at Total Air and Heat in Plano, Texas at 972-881-0020 right now and get on their schedule for a tune-up. Don't wait for the long lines. Get ahead of the crowd. Total Air has been servicing North Dallas and Plano and Richardson areas for over 60 years. Steve and Justin Lawton sell and service Carrier brand heating and cooling systems with Green Speed Intelligence technology. So give them a call at 972-881-0020 or contact them at totalair.com. Hey, don't forget to follow us on all your social media, like us on Facebook, subscribe and share on YouTube, and check us out on all your social media platforms. Don't forget to watch Remodel Revolution on your smart TV, on Texas Weather Tracker TV, on Roku, Android, Apple, and Amazon TV, Sundays at 1 and 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. You know, there's been lots of predictions of doom and gloom for the building industry. We hope they don't come true. But the way things are going right now, it's possible that it could happen. And one of the things that I remember from the last recession, depression, whatever, I call it a depression in 08 and 07, was that there was not a lot of wisdom being given to or expressed to particularly young and new business people in the building industry. The banks and the lenders were coming to us saying, oh, Dallas is immune, don't worry about it. Keep borrowing money, keep building houses, don't you worry about a thing. And then the next thing you know, everybody's working at Home Depot. And, so, and I got kind of upset about that. And I've been through probably 4 or 5 of these recessions. So I kind of have a sense of what to look for, things that I look for that are kind of telling me what's coming down in the next 12 to 18 months is generally when it kind of filters down to us. So I wanted to talk to Chris and Matt about the things that they do to prepare and their advice on preparing the younger folks for the potential of a big slowdown in the industry, not from demand, not from high interest, or although it could be high interest rate, who knows, but it seems like there's this culmination of things going on that sometime around the last quarter of this year, or is what people are talking about, there could be a big slowdown. Of course, you never know anymore what's going to cause, there could be another pandemic and just shut it all down, who knows. But what is some of the advice you would give to, particularly now? I remember in the last one, and I know I talked about this recently on this show, and I hate repeating myself, but it really had an impact on my feeling towards this. The people that went in business when things were getting better and have been in business for a few years, some of them maybe 10. And they've never experienced this butt kicking that's coming their way. And they don't really know how to prepare for it. They don't really know how to look for it. And then they've got the lenders telling them, don't worry about a thing, man. Just it's good forever. And then all of a sudden they get the big slap in the face.
What possibly could go wrong?
Right. What would your advice be? How would you tell your, on the last one, I sat down with Mike. Now I had 3 or 4 superintendents. I had a full office staff. I was rocking and rolling. And I sat them all down one day, and I saw what I saw happening was commercial projects that were being postponed or delayed. And that speaks to me to the buyer, because the buyer is typically middle management. Most of our buyers are earning the kind of money that they can buy that $300,000 or $400,000, now 3 or 4 at the time, a $250,000 house, which was kind of the average price. But when they're getting laid off or their companies are having big problems, they're not buying that house. They're renting an apartment or something. And I sat down with my staff and I said, no vacations, no bonuses, save your money and hang on tight, because in about a few months, sometime in the next few months, things are going to get pretty rough. And they were all going, "What are you talking about, man? We are like going 10 hours a day. We can't keep up with it." I go, "It's about to stop."
You know,
And it did.
I kind of, I look at it, whenever we have a storm and all these roofs get damaged and insurance, the roofers go to work. You can always tell when you're just a few months away from a new storm because all the roofers are driving new trucks. I mean, they just are, because they've made
Tons of money.
tons of money. They just couldn't be busier.
Yeah.
But then when it starts catching up, did they just invest it all in new trucks and things like that,
Big
or did
$3,500 wraps on their trucks.
Yeah,
and- yeah.
yeah, and are they putting it somewhere so that when the time comes and you're going to need it? Well, we haven't had a good storm here in about 6 months to a year. What are you going to be doing? So I kind of look at it in the same regards as things like what we're going through right now. You've got to be prepared. You've got to be ready, so you don't end up with a blip. You kind of keep going.
And it's hard to do because as a business owner, as a person, that you start out sweeping the floors, you become a carpenter, you become a job foreman, you become a contractor eventually. You've worked your way up, and it doesn't matter what business you're in, but you've worked your way up. So you start out here, you're up here, and your lifestyle changes with you. This is my point. So you drive a nicer car, you have a nicer home, you're maintaining that lifestyle. You're living off those credit cards because you can make those payments every month at 26% interest. And all of a sudden, what happened to me several times, and I know it's happened to you, and I'm sure you in business, is all of a sudden you hit this big wall, and that you don't have that income, you don't have that money coming in every week, and then you find out, have I been making money, or have I just been living the good life? What are your thoughts? This is Matt Mitchell with James Andrew Custom Homes making predictions again.
Wow.
You're both exactly right. You always have to live within your means, and I always joke about, oh, that's the American way, run up those credit cards and all the rest. And that's unfortunately what we do. We have tons of buyer envy, and we see what the neighbors have, and oh, I want that big fancy boat like Alex has. Do you have a boat?
I don't know.
I don't
no,
have a boat
can't.
either.
His children have the boats.
I can't afford one. 'Cause
Yeah.
we're kind of in that.
Yeah, I'm right with you.
Yeah.
But
He's got a kayak.
and you mentioned trucks, and you're buying new trucks, and my word, the amount of money you can spend on a pickup truck is staggering. It's incredible. You can spend $100,000 quickly, and it's absolutely unnecessary because a work truck you can buy for $5,000, and you got to live within your means, and you got to prepare for the times when it's going to fall off a cliff, and it's going to drop off.
I think that red one out in the parking lot, I think that's one of those $100,000 trucks.
Yeah, it was nice.
It was nice.
It was.
No.
I almost parked next to it, but the security. kept
I'm
me
glad
away
you
from
didn't
it.
park. I have
did,
an
but my-
armed security out here. Stay away from that. But you can have the tires.
But you've got to be, like you said, you've got to be prepared, and it's not necessarily starting now, but start now if you haven't. That's the way you have to run your business all the time, because you never know when pandemic hits, and it's gonna happen, when the hurricane's gonna hit, when something is gonna happen.
You know, one of the hardest challenges I had, I remember in the first recession, was the savings and loan, or it was right. Actually, it was the one after. I can't remember. There were so many of them. Savings and loan was about 6 months after I started in business, and I went in business, and I thought, God, this is easy, man. This is nothing to it. And literally 6 months later, I was sitting on the floor of the bedroom with the yellow pages, cold calling architects to try and get something to bid, and they would just laugh at me and hang up. But I didn't know, And that's kind of why I wanted to have this discussion, because a lot of people don't. One of the mistakes I made, and I'll let you chime in a sec. I need to get this out. One of the mistakes that I made during one of the recessions, I don't remember which one, I had a nice run. I had made some money. It was in the bank. You know, I did all the right things. And instead of cutting back, and I'm talking about in business, I let the workers hang on, some of the guys hang on. You know, we didn't know how long this was going to last, so we just let them hang on, piddle around. I kept paying them, kept making those truck payments for those trucks I'd bought them, all that stuff. And of course, by the time it came back around, Alex had no money to operate. You know, I had to start over trying to save up operational funds. And so one of the things that I wanted to tell you folks, you ladies and gentlemen, when you have these people, sometimes it's a better decision, better for them and you, to say, you know, you need to go find something else to do for a few months till we get through this. And so that I know I'll be in business when it comes back.
Well, you know, you talk about the recessions that you've been through. I mean, we've all been through those. How many of us have ever been through a pandemic?
Well, that's
None.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't know what to expect.
Right.
We didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
And just like you were saying, the lumber mills, a lot of them finally caved in. They had to lay people off because the COVID was going through their plants. And now then, that's kind of, while COVID is reducing, we're now starting to feel the pain of those plants being shut down and the shortages that we're having to deal with the lumber yards.
And this is this like Matt Mitchell with James Andrew Custom Builders, president of Dallas Builders Association, predicted.
It's a lot to put on a business card.
It really is.
You have to have a
I'm just going
two-sided.
to put soothsayer.
He should have given you a much higher chair. So
Yeah.
It will come back, folks. It will come back. So, and you know, I had your friend on, the guy that was president of the Dallas Builder. That's Michael Turner. I'm not sure which one of you is smarter, but Michael had some
He's
great
prettier.
advice. He ain't pretty, but he makes good beer.
I'll make you some
You
burrow.
know, what goes up must come down, and vice versa, and that's how this will be as well.
This will
we'll
turn.
come through.
This
Yeah.
will end,
Yeah.
and it's going to come down. It's going to come up, and but you got to play smart. And the economy is not emotional, so don't look at it emotionally. You've got to make smart choices. If talking with some really wise guys that have been through as many as 7 of these economic downturns. And one of the pieces of advice when we were talking about land and speculative and things like that, what do? And they said, sell it, get rid of it. It's don't let it
Don't
become
hang-
an emotional
Yeah,
something. It's
yeah.
just land.
Emotional
It's just
baggage.
stuff.
Yeah.
If you've got $100,000 truck that you're paying a
$1,100 a month. I know one
or
guy paying.
$1,500, $2,000 a month
Yeah.
note,
It's ridiculous.
sell it.
If
Get
your
rid
truck
of it.
payment is close to your house payment, get rid of the truck.
Yeah, it's unnecessary. And
There's more
do that
trucks.
now while the economy is really great.
Yeah, while you can sell it to that sucker.
Because in a month, and in a year, if everything falls apart, then you want to sell it?
Right. This has been really, really interesting. I really appreciate you guys coming in and spending the day with me. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun. Lots of wisdom at this table right now, to my left. This has been a really great show. Thank you so much, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook so you can get our notifications and watch the show live. Check us out on Saturdays on Texas Weather Tracker TV at 9 and 11 or 9 and 10. I'm not sure. I think it's 9 and 11. And
What channel can you find that? What channel can you find that weather?
Texas Weather Tracker TV, and we're on Roku, Apple, and Amazon TV Saturday, so you can see the whole show rerun.
Recorded. Save it for the kids.
Absolutely. This is Alex Guthrie signing off. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Alex. It was awesome. Thank you, Chris. Good to see you again, man.
Good to see you too.
Hey, don't forget to follow us on all your social media, like us on Facebook, subscribe and share on YouTube, and check us out on all your social media platforms. Don't forget to watch Remodel Revolution on your smart TV, on Texas Weather Tracker TV, on Roku, Android, Apple, and Amazon TV, Sundays at 1 and 3 p.m. Central Standard Time.
The views and opinions of this program are for educational and entertainment purposes only and are not intended to replace the recommendations of a hired professional. You can catch Remodel Revolution anytime. Follow the show on the website, remodelrevolutionradio.com, or on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, using the handle @Remodel Revolution Radio. You can always listen to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and TuneIn, and watch the show anytime on YouTube.